Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning, and our focus is mental health of our children. We have with us 3 school counselors, and they're going to be talking to us about what they've been doing and also the commemoration of School Counseling Awareness Week. We have with us, joining us via Zoom, Monica Manzoor, who is a counselor at Galen University. We have on set with us Roxanne Jones, who's a counselor for the Methodist Primary Schools. And we have Samson Jacobs, who is a counselor at EP York High School. Good morning.
Good
and
morning.
welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Well, 3 different levels here too, primary,
Yes,
secondary, and tertiary.
Yes.
Before we talk about the organization and how far we've come with school counselors, I really just want to tap into your knowledge and expertise about how you felt about our children being out of school for almost 2 years. Let's start with you, Roxanne.
Yes, well, good morning. Thank you for having me. You know, school provides that structure, you know, and consistency. It also provides that nurturing bed, you know, and so with the children being out for 2 years, I was like, I don't know what we're going to see. You know, I don't know. I was speaking with some teachers just before we started the phasing back, and we're like, you know, we don't know. We don't know. It has never happened.
Yeah.
You know, even summer, 2 months, and you get them back, and you have to try and work and bring them back into a certain, you know. So it was kind of scary to figure out, and of course, a lot of social issues, and we've seen some of it prior, and so we know that may have increased, and how the children would, you know. So it was scary. It was scary, really, to try and see what was going to happen.
And for you, Samson?
For me, it was quite challenging. I came from that track and tap structure. So with the onset of COVID, it forced me also to learn using the platforms, Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. It was also challenging in terms of reaching out to students to provide that psychosocial support, that counseling support, even in terms of designing programs for students. It was kind of challenging because yes, they were online, but they had difficulty coping with the different interventions that were set in place, right? And so because you know that EPRC is a full academic school, we focus a lot on CXC. So the 4th form students specifically were struggling with the online classes, more so with the technical vocational subject areas. So the cries were and still are that, you know, they were struggling, and so they come with a more open mind to return back to school so that we can focus more on that area in terms of CXC.
Yeah. And Monica, your experience?
Well, at Galen, we are working with a lot of our older students, 18 years and older. And as it was mentioned, you know, that part of connecting with others, I think that this isolation, you know, we're human beings that need connection. And even though we are joining these virtual classrooms and we're able to virtually meet other people, but it's still difficult, and trying to feel connected, trying to feel a part of a community, that is difficult to navigate while we are online. And in addition to that, we're also dealing with so many stressors. We are all facing the same pandemic. We are moving into new territory, trying to figure out what this all looks like while we are still expected to function. We are learning this new transition, but yet we still have to be ourselves. We need to go to work if that is still a possibility for us. We need to, some students started university or high school or junior college during this transition, and that alone, when we're face to face, is a challenge. Now imagine having to do it virtually. And also for us, we work with a lot of non-traditional students as well. So we have a lot of our contact who are students that are adults, who are coming back to school, working adults who have jobs, have families. We work with a lot of our teachers, so we get to see that part as well, that they are dealing with the transition of being lecturers and teachers at school and still having to do school themselves. So
Yeah.
it's a lot going on. Yeah.
And that, is interesting and was going to be my first question. To get an idea of what you are hearing from the students that you counsel, how they're coping with these difficulties, and what's the impact, that the past 2 years have had on them. So what has that experience been like, and, for you as a counselor?
Yeah. For us, we're still getting our children in. One of my schools started January 10th and with the phasing, and the other school is still phasing, like the last set of children coming in this week. So a lot of observation happening at this time, a lot of assessment. For the lower, the infants, there is not much crying. No, there is not, but
That's different.
it is, because normally you would have, so there is not much crying, but it's the newness, like the school is like, a different place.
Yeah.
And even the teachers normally in a normal setting, they will be all over their teachers, and that's a struggle. It's a struggle in observing and speaking with the infant level teachers, like, how you not connect with these little ones. And they need, basic help in opening their juice and stuff like that. And the ones who do have, like, little, like, I want my mommy kind of thing, how do you not touch them?
Yeah, nurture them, yeah.
So,
I had one teacher tell me, and I want to get your feedback on it, that it's different at the lower level, because you don't hear the laughter and the playing and the happiness that you typically hear at a primary school. And they're very worried about the state of mind of our children.
Yeah, that's a very good observation, because I was noticing indeed that it's kind of quiet, like they're, like, I don't know, I guess they're feeling out everything, being out of a different setting from the home and what was happening, and trying to figure out how do we fit into this, what's going to happen, because we're being told this and we're being told that, and you want to hear from them. You want to hear from them. So I spend time, for this week, like going into the classes, just, talking to them, reintroducing myself and, and things like that, to let them know you're there. For the upper ones, they are happy to be back in school. They're happy to be there. And each week we find that the numbers are increasing with them returning. When they first started, it was a small amount, because they come in half, half the total of the class. And so maybe if the class had 20, maybe 5 or 6 would be coming in the half session, but then now it's almost up to full capacity with maybe the 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, or 10 on Monday, Tuesday, and stuff like that.
Let me just throw out the question and tell me, anyone can answer who feels fit. How much has your school or managing authority prioritized counseling in the return to school? We know that even as adults, our mental health is affected. I can't imagine for children being at home for almost 2 years. Have you gotten that green light from your entities saying, please make sure you take care of their mental health?
I have so much question to answer. I want to go back to Gavin. Go
ahead.
Again, with the onset of COVID, and you know that EPAC, roughly we have 700 students, so it's 700 students to one counselor. And so one of the some of the issues that we see, the main one is grief and loss. A lot of the students lost a parent, a family member, basically. And so to work with them virtually was very difficult, right? Yes, we just did check in with them to see how they were doing, find out things like when a funeral date, so we can attend funeral. In terms of maybe the psychosocial support, the school will give a read, the class go home and teach that type of thing. But to say that it was okay or easy, no. Right? I remember a first from a boy, and when he learned that his mother passed away, that young man couldn't hold up any at all on the phone, and I felt it for him, because of course I didn't know him physically, but because he's just transitioning from primary school to high school, you could have sensed the tears and the emotion from him. No? So that was challenging for me. After grief and loss, we have a lot of, some of the issues that we see, the main one is grief and loss. A lot of the students lost a parent, a family member, basically. And so to work with them virtually was very difficult, right? Yes, we just did check in with them to see how they were doing, find out things like when a funeral date, so we can attend funeral. In terms of maybe the psychosocial support, the school will give a read, the class go home and teach that type of thing. But to say that it was okay or easy, no. Right? I remember a first from a boy, and when he learned that his mother passed away, that young man couldn't hold up any at all on the phone, and I felt it for him, because of course I didn't know him physically, but because he's just transitioning from primary school to high school, you could have sensed the tears and the emotion from him. No? So that was challenging for me. self-injury and depression. I have received videos, WhatsApp, because they post it in their WhatsApp status, right? So I received the videos, the actual pictures of students cutting. And I think, I don't know if I think it was you who asked how they cope. Really and truly, most of them tell me, you know what, sir, we just listen to music. So they listen to the specific genre of music to help them cope with it, right? Sadly, I've learned also that parents weren't as supportive as we expect them to be. Some of them were and still are in denial, because I remember I called one and I said, Miss, I got a report that your daughter is cutting. And she's like, no, because they're in a room sleep, that type of thing. And indeed, the child was cutting. So they aren't open to the whole fact that, you know what, my teen is going through certain things. And one, I need to be open and honest about it. And two, I need to access the services that are available. And I forget the third question.
Yeah, the third question is, how much have they allowed you to
Okay, so,
prioritize mental health?
my administration, and I was telling Roxane earlier just now that and this whole session timely, because today my principal had invited me to present to our board of management the whole counseling department, the activities, whatever. So my administrators are very supportive. I basically have the free will to do. They don't limit me in terms of what I should do, but we make sure to put mental health as priority, because we realize our students are struggling.
I want to ask you something, and this is no indictment on your school because it's common all around. Do you still do part-time teaching and counseling?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
common in many schools, but I'm just saying it shows.
Mainly the high schools and junior college.
Mostly the high school, yes. But the good thing with EPR is that I teach personal development only to first and second form. And so third and fourth form do not get it, and I would want it to be rolled out throughout the 4 years, because I feel like it's a needed area. But recently, we have learned that they will make an adjustment to the Education Act to include teachers in that, school counselors in that area for the benefit. But then we still need certain things to be formalized or standardized in terms of, are we only going to do counseling or only teaching, or we're still doing both?
Yeah. Because we know the mental health needs are many. And for you, Monica, you know, that transition to university level, on average, is usually tough. They go from a very structured high school system to where they suddenly are responsible for moving forward with their educational goals. What have you seen in the past 2 years, and how people have been able to make that adjustment, and that the distance learning probably made it more of a challenge?
Right. I can say that it's been a challenge for them. Back in 2020, when we first did our fall intake in August, September, we had to do orientation online, and it was new territory for all of us. You know, we have been used to all the students coming on campus, meeting the staff, and we can go through them and help them and kind of hold their hands, still doing a little bit of hand holding to just get them used to testing the waters, and they can feel supported as they transition. Now, how do we do this all online and virtual? And, you know, when I think about working with all these students, you know, I don't feel so alone because I'm dealing with all of them. But when I put myself in their shoes, that yes, you are coming in with 100 other students, but for you, it is just you know, just you, maybe alone in a room, trying to navigate this. And we have a lot of students that are maybe first generation students that they're first in their family to go to college, so they may not necessarily be able to get that family support in terms of understanding how all this works, and again, navigating new territory. One of the things that we have been able to do well is implement some sort of mentors for our students. We started doing this during orientation, and last year in fall, we also launched a peer mentoring program that is catered for new students. So for orientation, we kind of pair them up with a current student. We have our orientation leaders. So they feel that sense of connection in a smaller group, right? So if we have 100 students, we're going to group them into smaller groups of 10 maybe. And we train our orientation leaders so that they can be there, support them. If they have any questions, they kind of walk them through orientation so that they can feel that they have access to someone who's readily available. You know, we at Galen, I know that we do well in supporting our students and being available for them. But something earlier that you mentioned of how we cope, I think that maybe we can find different ways of coping and we can have the resources there, but reaching out and making use of that resource is a challenge as well. You know, it's not the first thing that we think about, and there's so many reasons why, right? You know, we might have fear, or we don't know how to oftentimes when the pandemic had just hit, one thing that I realized is that we are announcing all these resources. You know, I am constantly sending information to our students, reminding them, you know, you don't have to do this alone. We have the counseling resource, and you know that's there. But until I reach out, maybe sometimes we reach out to specific students and we say, hey, and talk to them physically, or put their name, then they feel like it's personal and then they open up. And it wasn't until I was reaching out to specific students that I realized how many of them needed the help. But I had to be the first person to make that contact, because for some reason it's and I understand, you know, it's not easy to reach out and ask for help.
Of course, of course. And you're working with an age group that can actually vocalize that. Roxanne, you said something that really triggered a thought in my mind. You've worked with children, and you know that many of them are in very difficult circumstances. And I think that's been a part of what several entities, the Ministry of Education has been talking about it, the children's rights organizations have been talking about it. There are things that school offers some children that we don't think of, like safety from abuse. Like the possibility of getting a meal through a feeding program, like the opportunity to be a child instead of a caretaker of their younger siblings. When you think of the challenges that you knew existed before the pandemic, and these children having been at home for 2 years, what's the plan in how to address what you know was probably going on?
That's why when you asked about, is there priority in, getting, when they mentioned about school reopening, that's what I was thinking about. What is there to support what we knew was there before and more than likely had increased? And we just have to figure it out. Samson mentioned that he's meeting with his administration, and so am I. The school's administration has been very supportive, but you only have one counselor, and combined 2 schools is 1,000 students, about almost 1,000 students. It's impossible. So from going in there from the onset, my mindset is that we have to build a community. The school is already a community. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we encourage teachers to do self-care. We open up, we partner with Restore Belize, who has been doing the trauma-informed practice in schools. And so that prior to COVID, and so now, it came in as a great tool, because teachers were prepared before that, how to deal with children. You may not know they're in your class, but they have been traumatized. So the entire system now has to be everybody, the school wardens, the attendants, everybody being a part of the helping system. We have to use what we have, at this time. So going into saying we don't have this and we don't have that, it's,
For me, I always look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and I believe that, again, I like to use EPR because we're academic, right? And yesterday I was telling my vice principal of discipline, I said, sir, yes, I am not telling you that we should not focus on the academics, but we really need to look at the human aspect of our students. We cannot expect them to come and function at 100% capacity if they're not eating, if there are social issues at home, mommy and daddy argue. Yes, they have relationship, even though we have a zero tolerance policy in terms of relationship, but they have it, right? And so from the onset of COVID, I have been telling the principal that I know with the whole 10% and the whole restructuring in the ministry, schools used to receive monies for the son and son, the socio-economic need, the socio-academic needs. And I have been telling them that we need to look at the students, for example, who were benefiting from the school feeding program, and basically that stopped because they're not at school. if we could provide them like a grocery once a month, just to give the family that support in terms of having a food to eat, right? And so for me, I am very big on the psychosocial aspect, because I just believe that the students, you need to adjust the route before we can reach to the top, basically.
All right. And it's also like parents, you know, Samson mentioned that, you know, some parents, you don't see them getting the support, but they're limited in their own situation, you know. And at my level, you have to, I think even in high school, you have to get their consent to do, you know, certain things with their children. So you're not only serving the needs of the child, but the entire family.
Yeah.
You know, and so we have to be connected with what's out there, you know, and refer them to these resources. But I'm sure you won't listen to me if I have had parents who told me, Miss, I am going either go to school to pick up a package or go hustle. I go hustle. I can't be mad at you over that. You understand? Because I don't have that food at school to give your family.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the area that was on my mind, where I believe when they mentioned school reopening, but what, you know, how do we address these needs that are there?
I just wanted to put this there too, that with the onset of COVID, we have lost a lot of our students, because I remember
I want to get to that.
on their show, I think
Yeah.
recently the CEO or somebody was on, and they were talking about the Southside schools, say the Vernon Mod Excelsior, and how the students were struggling. But I guess in the general mindset of people, they're like, oh, EPR, they're the brightest, the richest, so we have lost students, and we have lost students at a crucial level, which is fourth form. Because I remember that student came to me and he said, sir, I am living with my grandparents and they don't have any income, and I need to withdraw myself from school voluntarily, and he needed to get a job to provide. So we lost him there as well, right? And he was very smart and performing well. So I just wanted to put that there, that, you know.
I wanted to touch on things like school loss. I know even at the primary school level, some of the kids aren't going back because I don't, we've heard reasons, but I'm glad that you give an example that some are going to work. There's two anticipations I think people had, especially with teenagers. One was children would not go back because they start working or hustling, or that some would become pregnant. The teenage pregnancy would also become an issue. Are you seeing that?
That I have that from last year, yeah. And I was, that's not a topic, touchy topic, you know, because some school have some, some school have some rigid policy that if you get pregnant, you need to withdraw. Some will work with you, right? And of course, you have some parents who will tell you, you know what, the girl get pregnant, she needs to withdraw. Again, and because of this week that we're celebrating, actually, I was telling the students yesterday that the role of the school counselors is to always advocate. No matter how bad the student is or the child, we're supposed to advocate, right? My personal issue when it comes to teenage pregnancy, okay, the act already happened, right? Who am I to condemn the child? So the best interest of the child is supposed to be paramount importance, that either we put you out or we keep you in order for you to get your high school diploma, and then you can suffice for your own self, right?
And Monica, what has the experience been like at the tertiary level? Because, you know, we're dealing with students in a different age range, and as you mentioned before as well, you know, sometimes, you know, even older adults who are sometimes providers in the case of their family, and all sorts of things where the dynamics are a bit different. So how has it played out at Galen?
I think for our traditional students, or the students coming from high school, coming from junior college, I think for them, it has been mainly dealing with the depression and isolation. A lot of our students are looking forward to this time in their lives where they're discovering who they are. They're trying to meet other individuals, other students, and trying to deal with that, a lot of the students that I've dealt with, I feel like they try to carry the burden of their family. They see their family struggling, they see their parents financially struggling, and they carry that burden because they feel like they cannot help. They feel helpless, and on top of that, they are trying to go to school. So that is another financial burden. So how do they deal with that? For our non-traditional students, so our adults, a whole different set of challenges, right? So they are, like you said, they are the providers for their families. So for our teachers, if they recently got this 10% cut, what does that look like? Managing their own responsibilities as a teacher and transitioning through the pandemic, dealing with family, dealing with school, it's a lot. And other non-teachers, we have individuals who have maybe lost jobs or just need to transition into what their job looks like working from home, or having to deal with being exposed to the virus alone. That alone brings this stress. So just dealing with these different challenges and how they can cope with it, has been what we have dealt with our students.
So I think all three of you have really just reinforced what I think we've known for a long time. There is a need for mental health resources within school.
Indeed.
Roxanne, I'll say I'm happy to hear that you're working with primary school children, because that's been a gap for a long time. But then when you put it in perspective that you alone are responsible for 1,000 students in Belize City, we need to do better. We need to do better. So the School Counseling Association was formed a while back, and I know you talked about being able to formalize what makes someone a school counselor. That's critical. The nice teacher doesn't always cut it. You need the training.
Right.
Let's talk about the goals that you have and the things that you'd want people to understand, especially in this week. Samson?
The goals for this week?
Well, I mean about the association where you are now and formalizing.
We have been, it's a long road. We have been fighting, like I said, to get school counselors in the Education Act for us to benefit solely as a teacher. We have been fighting with the ministry and our individual managements to let them prioritize and see the role of school counselors, because I think for the most part we are utilizing every other ways other than our role that we're supposed to be functioning as, right? Beside that, we have come a long way in terms of maybe our we're still working on school licensing, the issue with license, full license, special license, pedagogy, and I think that's it.
Yeah. And the counseling services in primary schools, is that very common, or are you a unique?
Yes, it's unique. I am only aware of probably 4 other. The Anglican has, but it's 2 counselors for many schools. The Catholic same way for many schools. The Methodists, we're the only ones who have 2 counselors for the Belize district, but or still our schools in the villages and out district aren't getting the service. So it's rare in the primary school having a counselor. We are not tasked to do lesson plan and go in class, but we do life skills and stuff like that, but mainly counseling. But still there's something where the counselor in the primary school somehow needs to have like almost 1,000 students. So they would task you to 2 schools or a couple schools and stuff like that. I don't understand that aspect of it.
So you have to triage children, those with like the worst problems.
Yes, what I do a lot of referral out to the Port Loyola Health Clinic. I do to the Hub, the counseling center, some private referrals, everything I could tap into that is out there. Counselors in the churches, maybe for the families, a lot of referrals to the Department of Human Services. I would just refer out, because we are guidance counselors, so there are only certain, interventions you can do within that setting. But to say long-term treatment, no.
And the openness of parents?
It's not rejected, but you just need to, I think, have a way, because still it's looked at as like nothing wrong with my picnic, and they're concerned. I've had some of them being concerned about what the child would say about what's happening at home, kind of thing. So you would need to be very professional about how you inform them about it, and things like that. So, but for the most part, they have been very supportive, because it's more getting the child to be, as functional, as balanced as possible in school. And so when you go into what's your need, what's going on, how can I assist the family, then it's you know, you're more given the support.
Do you see things like depression in that age?
Yes. Suicidal thoughts, ideation, stuff like that.
Primary school level.
Primary school.
Suicidal thoughts
Yes.
and depression.
Yes.
Wow.
And contributor has been, you know, for those who were able to go online, they're bored, and so they get into things that is way beyond what you would imagine. And some of the parents don't know how to monitor that. They don't even know some of these, you know, how to maneuver the apps and different things that is happening for safety. And so some of the children have been extremely exposed, you know, and so those things, you know, have caused them to go to a place where it's going to be challenging to figure out how we're going to give that support.
I can't even imagine how you tell a parent that your child is depressed or having suicidal thoughts. What's your experience here, Samson?
I was just going back to that question that in terms of parental support, at EPR they're more open.
Okay.
What I tend to do every academic year, every terms, because we have 3 terms, I do parenting workshop. One of the things that I like about online learning and teaching is that we found out that a lot of parents who were working from home, they logged into the sessions as well, and so you notice that they listen to the class, they can relate. I meet them on the street and they tell us or tell me about the PD classes. So for the most part, yes, parents have been supportive. They are not in denial. I think they're denying more in terms of the cutting aspect. The
self-mutilation.
But in depression, they accept that. Yeah. And what I like too is that because there is good communication with the student and the parent, from in the home, the child will tell the parent that, you know, mommy, I feel this way. I feel like I'm going through this. And so when the parent bring the child to school, they would say things like, you know what, sir, my daughter said that she's going through depression, or my son say he has signs of depression. So it's more, the working relationship tends to be better.
I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit too. You know, at the primary school level, for me, what I found is that when I send home a material, I'm thinking of educating the parent. Because for the very same reason, you know, teaching our children to be able to identify what they're feeling doesn't happen just like that. They have to be guided. It has to be modeled, you know. So, like at that level, you know, learning how to say, you know, I'm not sure, I feel off, something is wrong, and you want to probe, you want to be able to probe, but if the parent does not know, it's just, you would be dismissed and things like that. So, for me, I think a lot of the intervention is not only dealing with the children. No way you will be able to get beyond, you know, get any kind of results from that. It's more tapping into the parents. So it's good, you know, that you mentioned that, and I could see continuity as they progress into high school. That the seeds that you plant or what you try to do in primary level, that it goes with them, you know, to, you know, grow with them in high school, you know.
So what's the message for school counselor awareness week? What do you want people to know or understand, other than we need more school counselors? But
I will go first.
Yes.
For me, I want the general public to appreciate the role of school counselors. I want school boards and administration to support school counselors, to see that we play an important role in the school system. I want students generally, specifically males, because somehow I feel like males are still not open to counseling. And so I want to encourage them to not see their school counselor as the enemy, but as the support person in the school. And throughout this week, I have been doing a lot of informing students on the role, and to let them know more about the services that are in place to support them. So for me, that is big, because I feel like, yes, they come in, they don't know, and then they leave and still don't know. And so my role is to try and educate them in that aspect.
All right, I guess, anything else? Monica?
No, I was just going to add that I think we do a lot of advocacy work. Like you said, you know, just informing the public of the importance of mental health. I know that in recent years, we have been more open to talking about it, but I think that we're still not where we would like to be. And as we continue this work, just bringing the importance of reducing the stigma around mental health. You know, I think we've come a long way from thinking that mental health or counseling is for crazy people, and it's not like that. You know, we all deal with emotions, and we all deal with challenging situations, and it's just having that support to help you cope with it better. So bringing that continuing to bring that awareness so that we can continue to be open about it, and not view it in a negative manner. And I think that that is always my goal, for us to understand it and be able to be open to it.
Yeah. And Roxanne, why don't you close us off with tips for parents?
Oh, wow. That's nice.
That's a long list, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times people don't know that children are suffering or struggling.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I want to go, like, to me, the first thing parents need to realize is that they are models. You know, the little ones are looking at them to see how they manage, how they cope. So it's okay if, you know, you have a situation going on and you don't know how to deal with it, but recognize that, you know, and take some time out instead of like acting up and tell the child, I don't want you to behave that kind of way, but you are screaming, you are, you know, and stuff like that. So I think just be able to check yourself and see, how do I deal with situations because I'm passing this on to my child, you know? And a lot of mistakes would happen. A lot of things would happen. That's growth, you know, and so don't beat down yourself again, because, you know, we need to build up. Doesn't matter what you have or don't have, at the end of the day, once you give that child your attention, you know, you speak life into them, you know, I'm looking forward to you becoming a productive citizen, and, you know, things like speak, you know, that positivity, even though you are struggling, that child, it gives value. And so it doesn't matter what's happening around them, that they will, you know, they will thrive.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation, and we really appreciate you coming in, letting us know what it's really like back at school and what our children have been going through. So keep up the great work, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to be taking a short break. And when we come back, we'll be shifting gears, and we're going to be learning all about the reopening of the Museum of Belize today. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.